Hey guys, and welcome to another video. I hope you're all doing well. And in today's video we're going to have a little bit of a chat about different forms of reading. Primarily reading physical books, reading ebooks, and reading or listening to audiobooks. So kind of the reason I'm talking about this is because I haven't actually finished the book in a little while. I'm still sort of pecking away at this monster. I'm a little bit over halfway now. Like this last section here, about that much is all notes and references and stuff. So I'm a little bit over halfway through this book. I have obviously been moving, so I haven't had like solid chunks of time to sit down and read. And I've also been working on some master's stuff. So yeah, I haven't had a ton of time to sit down and read this, but I have had time to listen to audiobooks, so while putting together furniture and stuff like that. So I thought this would be a good time just to touch this topic. It's been something I've wanted to talk about for a little while, and I just kind of, it was never the right time. So just straight off the bat, I don't think that there's a better or worse way to read books. It depends on what you're trying to get out of the book, if that makes sense. I prefer to read physical books, mostly because I just prefer sitting and being away from technology and the distractions that come along with it. And then also there's just an aesthetic thing about it. I was watching a video the other day where someone said they particularly didn't like reading physical books because they had a sensory reaction to the feeling of the paper that books are printed on. It's not like the glossy laminated paper. They have a bit of a reaction to that. They don't like it, and that's totally fair. I happen to really like reading books. I like how books look, all those sorts of things. I really like reading physical books. Now obviously something like this, it's a paperback that's 1,000 pages, quite big. If you start talking about something like Andrew Roberts' Churchill Walking with Destiny, this is 1,000 pages or so. It's a hardback book. This actually isn't published too badly. It's fairly thin pages, but it's a 5 or 6 kilogram book. That starts to when you're reading, you now have to start thinking about if you're lying down and resting on yourself, that's going to start to hurt eventually. So there's that consideration as well. But anyway, I do prefer to read books in physical format. I am coming around to reading books in ebooks, or ebook format, digital format. The reason for that is physical books can be hard to find sometimes, particularly as I'm moving into my master's study and wanting to read slightly more obscure books. Sometimes books are published by the Princeton University Press or Cambridge University Press, or these books aren't carried particularly widely. They often don't appear on Amazon, which is kind of my fallback, and also Book Depository sometimes doesn't have them. So getting an ebook version is just a way that is cost effective. You can sometimes find these books, but they're $150 each. On Kindle it'll be between $10 and $20. So that's one reason for reading ebooks, is some of those more obscure titles you can definitely find in an ebook format much easier than you can find a physical copy of it. The other reason is that, particularly now as I'm a bit busier and I don't have a heap of solid time at home to sit down with my books, physical book can be on your phone. Ebook can be on your phone. And so what I've been doing recently is in those moments where you're quiet, you're waiting for something to happen, whatever, you can just take out your phone, go to your books app, whether that be Kindle or another app, and and just read a little bit of the book. It's not ideal. Ideally, you want to sit down and sit with the book for a while, especially if it's a more complex book. Like, sit with it for a while, read a whole chapter or a whole section, those sorts of things. But not everybody has time, and sometimes your life gets busy, and so doing that is great. So yeah, I am reading more physical ebooks. I tend to have about one of them on the go. They're not generally like big chunky 1,000-page books. They're maybe slightly shorter that I just want to get the ideas from, usually tangentially related either to what I'm studying or other things that I'm reading. Audiobooks are the last option, and some people have a big aversion to them, some people swear by them. I fall somewhere in the middle. I think that they're great as long as you use them correctly. I'm not one of these people who's going to say listening to audiobooks doesn't count as reading, but if you're going to try to listen to something like this, like Rising Star in audiobook format, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle a lot, just because your attention naturally when you listen to an audiobook, and the reason why people like to listen to audiobooks is because your attention can be on something else and still be getting through that book. So if you're cooking or you're cleaning or putting together furniture, you can be doing other things while listening to the book and then getting through the book in that time. It means you're going to miss things. It means you're not going to get the full appreciation for what the author is doing and what the author is saying. Now, sometimes that doesn't matter. If you're reading a very simple, I don't want to just automatically go to fiction, because fiction isn't always simple, but if you're reading a simple YA fiction book, why not listen to it on audiobook? Like, there's not going to be that much going on, right? You're not going to have little details that are going to make it hard to follow if you miss them. But yeah, definitely it is worth being a little bit careful about what you pick to read in audiobook format. And then be very careful about drifting off, letting your attention drift and missing what you're listening to. I tend to have personally one audiobook on the go at a time, and they're very simple books. The most recent one, or they're books that I see and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to read that, but realistically, with all the other stuff that I've got on my reading list, it's going to be years before I even get to that, if I ever get to it at all. But I want to read the book, and so the most recent book I read that fit that category was Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer, which is about an expedition up Everest in 1996. I want to see this as well. I don't remember the exact date. And they went up Everest and 13 people died. There are a series of movies, one with Jake Gyllenhaal in it, portraying what happened on Everest that year. And it was it's kind of no consequence that I don't remember the exact date or the exact number of people or exactly how everything happened. It's just an interesting story. And I got a little bit of a feel for how Everest expeditions work and how the Sherpas interact and all of those sorts of things. I got a little bit of a feel for that. And that's a win in my book. I used to listen to a lot more audiobooks. It used to actually be my primary way of getting in books, and sometimes I would literally sit down for an hour and just focus on the book. I don't do that anymore. I find it's actually more difficult for me to get an understanding of what the author is saying than actually reading. But that's kind of what I have to say. So basically, read how you like. It doesn't matter. Just don't cheat yourself out of getting things out of the book. One other thing I suppose that people do, people have talked about doing, is they listen to an audiobook and read it at the same time. I think it's better to do for fiction, especially if there's a characterizations of the voices. I've not tried it. Actually, no, I lie. I did try it a little bit for Ian Kershaw's To Hell and Back. It's something I bought on Audible like years ago and never listened to it because it was going over my head in audiobook formats, and then I bought the physical copy and then thought I would try that. I tried it for about a chapter and like it was fine, but I just felt like the speed mismatches were getting frustrating. Like sometimes I would want to read a bit slower to understand something, and sometimes I would like get to a section like, oh yeah, I know what he's saying here, I've read this 10 times in other books, and get his point and move on, and then the book was lagging behind me. So it got a little bit frustrating. I think with fiction that would be fine because every fiction book is going to be new, so you're not going to have maybe that issue. But anyway, that's what I had to say there. Let me know in the comments, do you like audiobooks, do you like ebooks, or you like me and you like collecting all your physical books, and why do you like things? Do you mix things up? Do you think people should never listen to audiobooks? Like what is your opinion? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week for another video, hopefully finishing Rising Star. See you then.